of the flight back. You said it was troublesome. We all know what that's about. But are you saying that none of the players or the staff had any inkling at that point that something major was going to break?
No, we got back to East Midlands and we had problems with the hold luggage. So anyone who had hold luggage with the winds, we weren't able to open the hold, and so we had to wait at a local hotel. And then by the time I got home, as I say, I received a phone call maybe 10 minutes before the news broke on the media and the telly from the director of football, John, asking me to take caretaker charge for the forthcoming game against Liverpool.
And was it a complete, absolute shock to you and the players?
No, I can't believe any of the players. On the way back, it was just a normal flight.
Craig, would you question the timing a bit? Obviously, a great performance since Seville. You know, you've got the away goal. Jamie scored his third goal of the year. Castle was tremendous. Do you question the timing of it at all? Because it seemed a bit of a turning point. And obviously, it's just.
Again, I think it's a question for the owners and the club. I know they're not here, but I think I've been asked to come along this afternoon in probably I feel a bit like a pantomime villain in a way, sitting here. But I've got to answer your questions. Of course, my focus is definitely on the Liverpool game. With the timing of it, I have to respect the owners' decisions.
Great. Do you feel that the players will respond to this change?
Again, we need to, because something needs to change in terms of results. We have to make sure that we have enough points in the bag to stay up.
Craig, do you think everything in general, being Premier League champions, new contracts, actually cards given to you by the owners, has that come too much too soon for the players who perhaps weren't used to that spotlight previously?
Again, I think it's always a catch-22 situation, because if you don't reward them and they go other places, we would have lost some very good players. So I think the club itself was in a very catch-22 situation. I think nowadays we look at other clubs and the money they've spent. I'm sure we're not in the budget of some of the clubs. But you know what? We deserved to win the league last year. We did. We won it by 10 points in the end. And it was one of those where we deserved to win it.
I don't feel they've had their heads turned then in terms of sort of running off field.
In terms of on the training pitch, as I say, their focus has been very, very good, very professional, and it's a joy to work with them at times.
Craig, how much of a factor do you think the departure of Steve Walsh might have been to this season?
Well, as everyone knows, myself and Steve are very, very close. We're brought in by Nigel. We stay long-term friends. I think, in my opinion, Steve is the best out there in terms of recruitment. But again, we had to move on.
Do you think the recruitment was good enough in the summer?
Again, it's not really for me to comment on. I think it's a question for other parties at the club.
And you mentioned Nigel. There's some suggestions that the players would welcome him back, and obviously he left in some difficult circumstances, but I don't suppose you've discussed anything with him?
I haven't, no.
Craig, you've been in this situation before in terms of fighting for your Premier League survival. How different does this one feel to 2 years ago?
It definitely feels a lot different today. But in terms of, it's a football match. In terms of getting teams prepared, I'd like to think my man management style can do that. As I said before, it's 13 games. There's enough games there. This squad are good enough to get themselves out of this, and that'll be the message.
How difficult is it though to change that momentum? Because it seems to be a downward spiral in the league.
Yeah, I think momentum is a big word in football. We had that last year going forward. What I would say is that they've trained well over the last few weeks, especially. We have refocused ourselves. Ultimately, the Swansea result didn't go our way, and that was a big disappointment to everybody. But momentum, I know what you're saying there, Rob, can be a big thing in football.
You mentioned the pantomime villain. How difficult will it be to turn around that kind of perception? I mean, you must be aware of the groundswell of public sympathy for it.
Yeah, I can do nothing about that. I think I have to be myself. As I say, I've worked with some very, very good managers, but what I would say is I'm determined to stay the same. I want to be myself because I think people read into that, and I think you've got to do that in football.
You sound very positive about your own prospects. I mean, you sound bullish almost about wanting.
I think when I say I don't want to appear to be too bullish, but I think I want to put the right messages to the players. We will have a right go at trying to turn this round.
Hopefully with you at the helm from your point of view.
Again, definitely for Monday.
Craig, when you were speaking to Claudio, did he give you an indication? He'd said before that he would have loved to have just seen out his career here. Did he give you an indication that he wanted to be back in football, that he'd come back somewhere?
No, again, some of the conversation will stay private, as you can understand. But no, he didn't.
Knowing him as you do, would you expect him to one day come back?
Again, it'd be a question for Claudio.
Craig,
Was he emotional, Craig?
No, he wasn't. As I said before, his tone was the same. He understands football. He was very level-headed about that. He said to me, "This is football. This is what can happen." So he wasn't too emotional. He was very level-headed.
Craig, you know these players really well. Do you think that they would respond well to a new manager coming in at this stage of the season, or do you feel that you could actually do that job?
Again, I think it's a question for the players. I'm hoping that I can get a response along with the support staff, and let's see on Monday.
Are there any things that you'll change right away, Craig, just little bits and pieces that you think?
Again, without having addressed the players, I'd like to speak to them first, which I'll do in the morning.
You mentioned that the players are very tactically aware. Do you get the impression that they respond well to a change in tactics?
Again, I think in terms of being positive with players, I think I've always been a type that will work with the players. I think if you discuss things with them, there's things that they might tell you that's happening on the pitch that you haven't quite seen yourself. So, as I said, they're a very tactically aware bunch.
Craig, is there any team news you're able to give us ahead of Monday? I know you've not seen it. There is a game.
Thank you for that question.
Islam likely to be available? Leo available?
Islam trained with us out in Seville on Thursday morning, came through the session. I'm expecting both of them to be fit. Whether they're match fit, they'll be assessed in the morning.
Any other injuries you can tell us about?
No, I don't know at this stage. Sorry.
Talking of Leo, Craig, I mean, obviously he had issues previously. Is he somebody that you might talk to one-on-one privately just to make sure everything's...
I've spoke with Leo over the last couple of weeks. Leo's fine. I think all that went on, it was out there in the domain for everyone to hear, and there's no problems with Leo.
Craig, seeing as you're sort of in charge as it were, obviously over the next few days of the vital match, if Claudio wanted to come in and say goodbye to the group, as it were, that's something you would welcome?
Again, me personally, I wouldn't have any problems with it, and I'm sure the club wouldn't.
Craig, can I just ask, again, this might not be one for you necessarily, but part of the pantomime villain role I think that you're occupying is the statement that came out a couple of weeks ago, obviously offering and waving support, and it seems from the outside that you look at that and goes for this very sudden sort of change in direction. What's your opinion on that, and why? Can you understand why the public would look at that and go, that's why it looks bad?
As I say, I can understand why the public would perceive that, but hopefully I've allayed them fears this morning that to say it was pure speculation, there's no foundation to it. My relationship always has and always will be fine with Claudio.
Are you worried that on Monday are you worried on Monday that the fans might, have different opinions, that there might be a bit of unrest?
Again, I can't control that. Hopefully the players will excite and the match itself will excite the fans and they'll get behind the team, because ultimately it's the team and the club that we want to progress.
Can I just ask, have you got a message, or can you make any promises to fans going forward, the future of the club? Obviously you focused on Monday, but in terms of assurances for the long term, people will really be wanting that at the moment.
Yeah, I think any fans should support the team. I think ultimately it is for me, that's my remit, is just to get them prepared for Monday, and I'll stay focused on that.
And just lastly from me, the club chairman's hinted at problems says the millions of problems to sort out and describing the situation as being in crisis. Do you recognise that? How do you respond to such, quite dramatic comments really from the club chairman?
Yeah, obviously I'm not sure whether he's on about the football business side of it or whatever. My focus always has been and always will be on the coaching and the football, and what the chairman says he's totally entitled to say.
Craig, albeit the difficult circumstances, are you quite relishing this opportunity to take a team?
I think it's an interesting time. I think, of course, I understand the seriousness of it in terms of where we are in the league. People tell you that the league table doesn't lie. We have to make sure that we're doing everything we can to climb up that league.
Thanks, folks. And all the best. Thanks very much.
Last one, just saying, Craig, you were part of the Great Escape 2 years ago. It was around this sort of time that it started to kick into life, so you've got experience of that.
Yeah, it'd be nice to get that again. I think it was a great time then, in terms of we were written off. I think we're not written off now. There's enough games in there, as I said earlier, for this squad to win football matches, and that's what we aim to try and do.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you, Alan. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. A chance for word off. Thank you. Yeah. Thank you.
John.
Hey, are you okay? Thank you.
5 minutes or so, but I'll come back.